Welcome to Project Quiver, a father-daughter journey across the globe to capture the artistry and spirit of the world's finest traditional bow carvers. I'm Todd, the father. Ella is my daughter. Together we're on a mission to create a stunning coffee table book that profiles more than a dozen master bowyers and their unparalleled skill. For each chapter, we travel to the Bowyers workshop, carve a bow under his guidance, photograph his woodcraft in detail, and share his story here on the Salish Wolf podcast. The book is called Quiver, The Art of Life Through Bowcraft. And this journey, our living story, is Project Quiver. How are you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah. Sorry about the last one.
No worries. That happens. How are the holidays?
Good. Over now, thankfully.
Busy?
Yeah, it's hectic. We got I think we had 6 or 7 different family Christmas things.
Wow.
Yeah, extended family, small family, for every side, it seems like.
Wow. So you're in Oklahoma, right?
Yeah. Where are y'all out of?
Split between Vancouver Island and British Columbia and Costa Rica.
Okay. So you're up there, right? By Jamie and all those guys?
Yeah, Jamie Jamie's a couple hours away. Pete's just down the road. Pete's walking distance. I'm going over to Pete's in a little bit after this. But then I'm off to Costa Rica tomorrow. So
Nice. So you work both places or like from home or?
Yeah, and most of what I'm doing is on my computer for the book and this Project Quiver and podcasting. So I can do that wherever.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. We actually came back because we were photographing all of our bows. So we made 14 bows during Project Quiver, and I had them all shipped here to Canada because I figured they would have a better chance of making it. And so we were doing photographs in the studio for the book. So that was our final photography obligations for the book.
Cool. And is the book being like sourced by anyone, or is it just y'all's project, or what?
It's being published by a publisher in Chicago called Trope. They specialize in beautiful coffee table books. So we're working with them, and they're doing all of everything that a publisher does for it. Yeah. It was an idea that I came up with on my own, and then my daughter came on board with it, and we were planning on putting the book together regardless of how that meant, even if we had to self-publish. But we ended up getting a few publishing offers. So
when do you think that'll be out?
October is the target. However, we're ahead of schedule on our end, so the publisher depends on them. Actually, it largely depends on the printer, because the printer takes anywhere from 3 to 4, maybe even longer months. That is 3 to 4 months. So
yeah, I'll have to get one when it comes out. That'll be cool.
Yeah, it's going to be beautiful. We're really excited for it.
Nice.
And it's been an amazing experience too to learn about all the different bowyers. Like when I started out with this idea, I knew very few bowyers out there. I'd worked with Pete of Heritage Bows and Jamie of Ravenbeak, and outside of that, I didn't know anyone. And so it was just kind of an idea to start working with other bowyers, and we slowly started to find more and more. And then as we started on our journey, after we had already committed to our bowyers for this version of the project or this iteration, then we started learning about so many more, like yourself. So
yeah, well, you had a good too locally between Pete and Jamie. You were fortunate to have those two guys.
And there's also Ryan Gautier, known as Wizard Goat, and he's 2 hours drive. So
I sent him some staves, and he sent me some this year.
Yeah, so having 3 of them right here or within driving distance has been really cool.
Yeah, bona fide bowyers, all of them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So how long have you been at it?
Let's see. I think I've got 7 or 8 years of building, but I've been shooting them my whole life. Longbows and recurves, laminates, not primitive, but building 7 or 8 years now.
What are you mostly building? Primitives or laminates?
No, I came from the target side of stuff, so I shoot 3D tournaments and I'd shoot longbow. And how I got into self-bows was self-bows are pretty big in Oklahoma competitively. And so I wanted to self-bow to shoot in these tournaments. And I was just going to buy one. And then my friends talked me into going to Ojam. It's like one of the biggest bow building festivals in the country, and it's an hour from me.
Nice.
So I went up there with the intention of building a bow to compete with. and then I fell in love with the building process. And so that's kind of how I got into it. But coming from the target side of stuff, I want my bow to be as forgiving and easy to shoot as possible. And I want to do that while building it out of a single piece of wood. But for me, that's pretty modern risers. I want a locator grip, a radius shelf, a radius uh, strike plate. So all things that make it really easy to tune and shoot. And so I don't care a ton about the primitive side of stuff. The longer I shoot, kind of the more primitive my setups get. Like a couple of years ago, I did stone points, linen string. I wanted everything to be natural. I mean, it still wouldn't technically be a primitive bow because it had a small shelf cut in. But I'm not building like historic replicas like someone like Corey Hawk would be doing, you know. To me, I just want to build the best shooting, best looking bow I can out of a piece of wood.
Nice. So archery, would you say archery is kind of the first passion and then making bows comes after that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hunting was like being in the outdoors, hunting, fishing was my huge passion. That's what my older brother, dad, and grandpa did. And so archery was, you know, this great tool to have for our hunting season. Archery season is 3 months, but gun season is 2 weeks. So if you want to hunt deer, and it makes sense to, you know, bow hunt. You get a lot more time in the woods. And then I don't know why that I kind of lean towards the traditional stuff. No one else in my family does anything traditional. They all shoot compounds and stuff. So I don't know if I just thought it was cool in like medieval books or movies or what, but um, yeah, I have like a distinct love for the outdoors and then traditional archery specifically.
Yeah. Are you finding that your bow designs are getting more and more primitive, or are you staying closer to the traditional for the competitions?
My personal designs did when I wanted to shoot in Oklahoma. We just got a bear season back in 2009. They've been wiped out before that. Arkansas reintroduced them in the 50s, and then we started getting bears from that Arkansas population. And so I wanted to build a primitive style bow and arrow because I knew that no one had killed one with primitive archery equipment since Native Americans. So that year I went as close to primitive as I probably will, um, with the all natural string material and stuff like that, the flint points. I learned how to flint nap. And then this year I went back to more of a tournament style riser on my recurve, and I was using metal broadheads on wood arrows this year.
And what year was it that you did the
That
more
was
primitive?
23,
Okay.
23. Yeah.
Did you get a bear?
I got 2 that year, 1 in Arkansas, 1 in Oklahoma.
Wow. And so that was, you're back now to more of the traditional approach?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still building like, this year I shot 2, different U recurves I made. So, they have a rawhide backing and then snakeskin on top of that.
Hmm.
So, it's still natural materials, but more of a traditional design on the recurve
Yeah.
as of a primitive.
Why two backings? Why rawhide and snakeskin?
Rawhide just because talking to people locally here, and I don't know if it's a climate difference, like, it seems like the guys in BC, like, they don't seem afraid to back their bows, the U. Um, Here, when you deal with Osage, you're chasing a perfect ring across the back every time. And so one is probably just extra insurance. It probably would be fine if I didn't back it, but the rawhide is an extra, you know, extra piece of insurance on the back of that bow. And Corey Hawk talks about Saxton Pope's books, and they were occasionally breaking U bows. And then when they started backing them with rawhide, they stopped breaking bows. And so when I'm paying $350 for a piece of U from British Columbia, you know, and putting all that time into it, I don't want to take any chances. And I'm going to put snakeskin on the back anyways. And so to me, you never even see the rawhide, but it is there protecting, and then the snakeskin's over the top
Right.
for aesthetics. So
Yeah. How long have you been hunting? Your whole life?
whole life, yeah.
Yeah. How old are you?
28.
Okay. So you started bow building pretty young?
Yeah, I think it was maybe 20. Yeah, around 20, 21.
Yeah. And is that a full-time thing for you?
No, I'm a firefighter. That's what I do full time. So I work 10 days a month. I have 20 days off a month.
Wow.
So I get a lot of time in the shop, or I did until we had a baby last year, and then we've got another one on the way. So now shop time's a little more limited, but I mean, I stay pretty busy with orders. Like I just release like a couple orders a year. And so I'm fortunate enough that those fill up instantly. And I feel bad that I have a waiting list, but I'm not going to open my orders and then have like 50 or 100 orders and have like 10 years worth of building. So I just release 2 or 3 spots here and there and then list stock bows occasionally.
Yeah. Where are you putting, when you say you're releasing your orders, is that through like a private mailing list or?
It's through my website, so ravenclawarchery.com. And then what I do is on Facebook, on my Instagram and Facebook for my Ravenclaw Archery account, I'll post like, hey, Saturday next week at 6 p.m. Central Time, there's going to be 3 bows in stock, custom order. And so you pay the $200 deposit, and it's first come, first serve. Those go live at 6 p.m. Then those people just snatch them up. So I don't have a good way to filter through Instagram, Facebook messages, calls, emails, and keep track of who requested bows and what orders. So that's just the most fair way I've found.
Yeah. That's cool that you're getting enough orders to keep you busy, and you could do more if you had the time. The bows that you are making to sell, are they similar to what you're making for your own self, or are they more primitive or a variety of things?
They're very much more the target style, a media riser. I'm typically doing, instead of like a 4-inch handle, I'm typically doing like an 8-inch handle. And I can offer a smaller one. I can make a 4-inch handle if someone wants. But if you want, a deep cut and shelf, like I can cut my bows to center, but they have to have that tournament style riser. So that way there's no flex and any chance of split out. I've never had a bow split out at the shelf, even with some being cut to center, but that's because I have so much mass in the riser. And you look at these Olympic archers and compound archers, what do you see on their bows when they're shooting, 70 meters? Stabilizers and weights everywhere. A light bow for me is really hard to hold steady, and it's not forgiving of your bow hand. So I put a bow quiver on, I've got a heavy riser, and when you're holding that mass is a lot more stable, both when you're holding at aim and on the shot. So it's a more forgiving setup. And so I think a lot of people go from shooting longbow class or recurve class, they want to shoot a self bow, and then they get a primitive self bow. And then they shoot that, and then they end up hanging it on their wall because it's so much tougher to shoot, which is, kudos to people that are shooting primitive bows very accurately because they're tough to shoot. But and there's not very many people, because when I refer people, if they're wanting to order a bow from me and I can't take an order, I don't know of very many people that are building modern tournament style risers, like a traditional Bear Grizzly style riser on a self bow. Like I see a lot of people do that personally, but of the bowyers that are, selling bows for a living, there's not hardly any that do. And so I feel like that's part of why I've had so much success in keeping orders. Is it's a pretty open market in that area. I
Right.
know of Arvin Weaver builds a really good tournament style longbow or self bow. He's out of Texas and he's just word of mouth. Like he don't have a website or anything, but you'll see more of his bows than any other self bow at the IBO Worlds and all these big 3D tournaments.
Okay, so you're creating bows that are kind of filling that niche for the tournaments.
Yeah.
Whereas most bowyers that I know are doing primitive self bows.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Where did the name Ravenclaw come from?
I was looking for Ravenbeak, and I think I'd maybe seen Jamie's stuff before, and I saw that name was taken. I'm like, what am I going to do? And then I just started thinking other parts on a Raven. I was like, Ravenclaw. And then I started doing that. Then my sister was like, oh, like Harry Potter. And I was like, oh, I already made the logo, the Instagram, everything. I was like, yeah, I didn't think about that. She's a big Harry Potter fan, and we watch it now. I like it, but I was like, yeah, I didn't think that through. So it wasn't after Harry Potter, but yeah, it was honestly Jamie kind of forced me into that name.
Right. And why Raven? Where did the passion for that come from? No.
No clue. I don't even think we have ravens here. So that's probably just my inner nerd. So
yeah. When did you start it?
See, I think I built a couple bows for myself, and then I made that, and I wasn't selling bows yet. I was actually selling tabs, and that's what I was originally selling with the Ravenclaw Archery was wood plate finger tabs with cordovan. And so that was probably 6 years ago, probably a year after I made my first bow. And then I started really enjoying the bow building process. And then I was like, man, I got to justify I spent all this money on tools and all this time out in my shop. because my other side job was lawn care on my days off from the fire department. I was like, I want to quit mowing and doing flower beds and stuff. If I can make money like doing this as a side job, then I could just invest all that money, sell my mowing equipment, and build a nice shop. So that's what I did.
Nice. What kind of woods do you typically work with?
90% Osage. Now, I've got a good stockpile of U. For me personally, I've sold a few U bows. I'm kind of on a U kick, so I've probably got 30, 35 really nice U staves. But everything else is Osage because I can harvest it locally, and I don't see why I wouldn't use U or Osage. If I can get it, and I'm going to put that much time into a bow, I want what in my mind is the best bow woods.
And are you
And
harvesting all of your own Osage?
most of it. So a lot of it, I have a couple contacts, and I'll pay people to cut it, and then I go get it. I pre-market, they cut it, and then I harvest some myself. I've harvested everything where I live, so anything worth cutting. But when I get it from them, I get it in log form, and so I do all the splitting, processing, all that.
Right. And how many bows are you making a year on average?
So this year I'll be right around 15.
Okay.
And so I don't pump out. I'm quality over quantity is more
Yeah.
my mindset. And it seems like every order I get now, somebody wants just about every option I offer added onto it.
Okay. And then for your risers and the handle and whatnot, is that all you and Osage, or are you using other woods for that?
Ideally, almost every bow that I build, like when I harvest my Osage, I leave my staves really big. I really like it all to be one piece, and I don't like putting laminates on the handles.
Okay.
I've done a few that way, but typically it will just all be out of U or all be out of Osage.
All right. Okay. Well, that's cool. So are they called self bows then? It's all a
There's
single
still
piece of
there's
wood?
still a self bow. As long now,
Yeah.
if you put a rawhide backing bow would typically or technically not be a self bow. It would
Right.
still be legal in the primitive class at most tournaments. But yeah, and that's kind of my theory on it is mine doesn't have anything more or less than say a primitive bow other than the shape of it.
Right.
So except if I've got rawhide on it.
Nice. Yeah, I'm just looking at your Ravenclaw Instagram now. I definitely have looked at it before. I just didn't study the handles as much. Those are cool. And then you normally put a grip on them?
Like a leather grip.
Yeah.
Yeah, depending on what the customer requests, I always put one on mine. I like that. My hands sweat a ton, and beaver tail handles that really well. It's got good texture. Your hand's not going to slip or slide. I mean, that's a huge thing in tournament archery is getting the same exact grip every time. So if it's slipping and sliding around, I mean, it's amazing how much that can throw off whether you're torquing the bow or not.
Where do you get beaver tail from?
There's several people locally that trap and harvest, and then they send it off and have it tan, most of them. And then you can find it online, eBay, Etsy. I just got 3 in the mail the other day from Canada. There's a guy in Canada. I don't know which province he's in, um, but he's got really good quality stuff.
That's cool. Yeah, it's beautiful looking. I love the texture. I've only used it on my bow that I made with Wayland at Swiftwood Bows, and that was just in the arrow passes. The grip is not beaver tail, but the arrow passes.
Yeah, and beaver tail is probably one of the tougher ones with how rigid it is to form to those contoured grips. Um, so it's what everyone wants, but it's probably the biggest pain to get on there.
Mm.
It's fine if you got like a broom handle round grip or just a flat grip, but when they've got a valley and they're coming in to get that beaver tail to mold to that, it's pretty tough, honestly.
Yeah. Do you then make the quivers that attach to your bows?
No, those are made by Donnie Wilkerson at Creekwalker. So Clay Hayes, I think is the first person I saw using one of those and turned me on to Donnie stuff.
So what's the benefit to those? You mentioned the mass.
I think
Is that
I
that's
mean,
primarily it?
yeah. So the 2023, the first bear I shot in Arkansas, it was my first time shooting a bear. I'd been hunting them for a while and I'd seen quite a few, but I didn't realize the anatomy difference vertically on bear is so much different than deer. I knew that horizontally their lungs sit further back, but their spine sits much lower than their hairline. And so what I thought was a good shot on that bear, I ended up spining it, and it still had rear leg drive. It got up to run off, and I was able to get another arrow in the bear as it was running off. And that's on my YouTube and stuff, but I couldn't have done that with the back quiver or side quiver that was hanging in the tree next to me. Like, to have it right there is really handy in a hunting situation. And then, yeah, the mass weight, like the more mass I have on a bow, the better I shoot it. That's why, people like the Black Widow recurves. Everyone says they shoot good. Well, they're like a 4x4 with limbs. They're a massive media riser and they hold really steady.
So why is that? Like, what's the physics behind that?
So, I mean, when you're at full draw, so like if you're just trying to hold like a straw, like trying to hold a straw out in the wind, like that thing's going to be flopping all over the place, as opposed to like, holding holding a brick. It's just going to hold steadier. And then you are holding the weight of the bow, but at the same time when you're drawing, you're pulling that weight back. So it's not like you're just out here holding it without any help. But when you're under tension, little shakes or vibrations aren't going to be magnified like they are on a little bitty light bow. So, and then on the shot, the bow is going to stay more dead in hand than a real light bow. It's much easier to jerk around a light bow. And that's why, those even the tournament guns that these guys are shooting, they weigh a ton because mass, it doesn't want to be moved. So it's going to stay steady.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess it's never been something that I've worried about because I'm mostly just doing target shooting. And I'm just used to shooting primitive bows so some are lighter, some are heavier, but.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like you shoot a tournament and you miss the podium by like 2 or 4 points. You're like, how could I shave that off? And then, it's everything like lighter arrows to close your gaps, smaller feathers to cut down on wind drift. Everything you can squeeze out of that bow. You're trying to find a way to get points anywhere you can.
How'd you get into the tournament shooting?
I'm not really trying to remember my first tournament. My dad or grandpa signed us up for one locally. It's pretty big in Oklahoma. And so it's just kind of like a big off-season thing. Like tournament season is the off-season of deer season, and it's what a lot of people do for fun. It is pretty competitive. Some guys even make a living doing it.
Really?
And it's just, it's super fun, and it's a good way to stay, sharp throughout the off-season.
So what's the setup like? Is it 3D shooting mostly? Or?
Yeah, 3D is what's big here. Field isn't very big. I don't know of any field organizations that we have locally. But yeah, so for most traditional stuff, depending on if it's an organization or a club, like some of these places are just a club. And so they can put whatever rules they want, shoot however many targets at whatever distance, and they'll have a stake. I'd say recurve is typically a 30-yard max. Every now and then they might put like a moose out at 40 yards or something. But yeah, you shoot one arrow, you're shooting 30 targets. The center ring's 12. Then you've got 10, 8, and then hitting the body outside the rings is a 5. And so you can shoot recurve. Most of these places have a recurve, a longbow, and then a self-bow class. And self-bow has to be shot with wood arrows.
So you get one shot each of the 30 targets. That's cool. And is it one round or do you do multiple rounds?
It is one round, and then some tournaments, the top 5 scorers will shoot for the top 3 places. They'll have a shoot-off.
And then is there any pre-tournament access so you can practice on the course? Or is that the idea that you're not supposed to?
Have like a practice range. Like you can't shoot the actual course that you're going to be shooting beforehand. But what guys would do, like if self-bow was my strong class, I would go to the practice range, I'd shoot my recurve through the course if it was the same course. And then I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to be shooting when I go back through for my self-bow class.
Okay.
So, but that's the only way you could really see the course before is if you shot a legitimate scoring round.
Mm-hmm. And then you said guys are making livings. Is that prize money?
Yeah, that's really just compound. I don't know of the traditional guys now. Shiloh Butts is in Oklahoma. He's a several-time over world champion longbow shooter. They have World Archery is an organization. They have a huge 3D tournament every 2 years. And one year it was in Italy. I can't remember where it was this last time, but Shiloh went to that and was meeting shooters from other countries. And some of those shooters, that is their profession in their country. So they are paid by their country, and that's what they do year round, is shoot competitively.
Wow.
And those are longbow, barebow, and in the instinctive class, which is recurve. I don't believe they can string walk. They might be able to. I'm not sure, but those are the three main classes, and they have full-time shooters.
And then you said here mostly it's people shooting in the compound category that are making money.
There's a lot of guys making a living in compound.
And why is that possible in that category?
The archery companies like Hoyt and Matthews, I mean, they make so much money. I mean, every year, like I used to work at an archery shop. Every year they will come out with new models. And every year guys will sell their previous year's model and very, very little changes. And they will come drop $1,500 on a new bow. And so a lot of those guys, they shoot 3D competitively, but not professionally. And so they follow these big name guys that are shooting for these companies, and they get contracts to shoot with them. And then there is some prize money in it too.
Okay. So it's largely sponsorship and then some prize money.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Crazy. So there must be a ton of tournaments then in your area.
Yeah. There's a lot all throughout the States. Yeah.
And what's Ojam like?
Ojam is, it's a big, just really good group of people that are donating their time, their tools. So you get there, I think they really start on Thursday officially, but guys are getting out there like Monday. And so, the Oklahoma Self-Bow Society is who runs Ojam. They take $25 for you to sign up and sign their waiver, and that's all it costs, other than you need to buy a piece of wood or bring a piece of wood. There's plenty of vendors there selling wood. But after you pay that all goes towards the nonprofit. They use that for bandsaws. They use that for belt sanders, and they use that for wood to make kids' bows, because they give away hundreds of kids' bows every year. And so they take all that money and just make sure that they reinvest it to grow the sport of archery and primitive archery. And so there'll be, I don't know, 30 or 40 guys that are part of the organization. And so starting Thursday morning, they'll sign everyone that signed up, they'll assign you to a camp. And so there might be 15 students in one camp, and they'll assign 2 or 3 instructors. And so from the time that it starts in the morning at 8:00, you're in that camp all day helping people from the start to finish. On Sunday mornings when it breaks down. But I mean, it's basically 3 or 4 days of you having a free instructor. Now, if you got 15 people and 3 instructors, you're kind of sharing, but yeah, it's basically a bow building class for $25.
Wow. So is that the premise of Ojam then? It's mostly a place to come and make a bow with more experienced people? Okay.
Yeah,
so
they want to keep that tradition alive. That's where I learned.
Wow, that's really cool.
Their goal is getting kids into it and keeping the tradition alive.
So there's not a tournament or anything like that associated with it?
They used to have a really big tournament. It was the state self-bow championship. And then I think it was COVID that kind of fell off, and now they're bringing it back.
And then anything else? Do they have vendors or?
Yeah, there's vendors there.
Camping?
There's usually probably 5 to 10 vendors, I would guess. And then, yeah, it's at a lake with a campground around it, and you can reserve camping spots.
Cool. How many people were there when you were there, do you think?
I don't know. I guess around 500 maybe.
Wow. That's significant.
Corey
And all
was
ages?
there. Yeah.
Okay.
Kids all the way up to most instructors, or a lot of those guys are retired. And there's a wealth of knowledge in those instructors. And then, there's like Corey Hawk was there. Bear Newcomb was there. A lot of just different guys that are big into that stuff.
And you said all primitive self-bows? Oh, that's really cool. I'll have to look more into that. I've heard of it. I just wasn't. I've not been to any of the archery rendezvous or jamborees, but in the States. But they all sound intriguing.
Yeah. So that, like, I went to the Classic for the first time this year in Tennessee, and that is a small group of, I'd say, at least half of those guys are very well-seasoned bowyers that just kind of hang out in this small circle. And then the Classic is this big, massive tournament gathering where there's vendors, and then there's a lot of people shooting, longbow and recurve showing up. And that's probably 90% of the people that make up the Classic. And then you have this small little subsect of core guys that are building self-bows in one area. And so whereas Ojam is 100% a self-bow building class with other little things to do.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, it's so amazing how much tradition there still is for primitive archery. It's something I didn't even know about 10 years ago, really, or maybe a little bit longer ago than that. That's a pretty incredible world.
Yeah, I'd say it's alive and well. It's healthy.
Yeah. What are your plans in it? Are you happy with where you are and what you're doing, or do you have other ideas that you're considering?
I didn't hear the first part of that. What was that?
Just your plans with
plans
as a bowyer in archery world in general.
I feel like over probably the last 2 years, I would say I felt like I really kind of hit my stride of identity of what kind of bows I like to build, the profiles, the designs. And so I really like where I'm at now. My time is very limited. But I'm raising little kids. Like,
That's awesome.
It's the best part of life. Like, I don't want to look back 20 years from now and think like, oh, I should have been in Sideborn, not out in the shop, So I'm soaking that up, enjoying that. They're only going to be little for so long. And so, like, in 5 years, they're going to be going to school. And I'm going to have all day when I'm off work at the fire department at home that I can go out to the shop. So I know I'll get my time back in my shop. But yeah, I mean, I harvest wood in the winter and then spend 3 months doing that. And then I ramp up bow building and I do that till hunting season. And then I stop until I'm done hunting. So I like that it's not like this full-time job. Like when I go out to the bow shop, I'm excited to go out to the bow shop. I love going out there. I don't want it to turn into like, oh, I have 50 orders and I feel obligated to be out there, because that's when it goes from fun to work.
For sure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. A lot of bowyers who I've interviewed have talked about that, and that when that happens, how it can ruin the passion, ruin the hobby, and turn it into a profession. So
yeah, and kudos to those guys that do it for a living. Like, I'm friends with Waylon. Anytime I have a question, Waylon is more than kind enough to answer it to me. And it's so nice to have a resource of a guy that does it every single day for a living, that's faced all these problems, and he's willing to help me, and then whenever I'm full, which is like all the time, it seems like now, I'm always sending guys to Wayland.
yeah.
So, he's doing it for a living. I couldn't imagine the stress of doing that, like as the market comes and goes, and whether people have spare money to spend on bows, like that would stress me out to no end. That's why we got to take care of the guys that are doing it for a living and promote them. And yeah, I'm thankful that we do have guys like Jamie and Waylon and those kind of guys. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Waylon's such an incredible bowyer, and all of them are so generous with their knowledge. And I think for someone like Waylon, having had a life before being a bowyer and having had a career and having had the stress of the career and trying to squeeze in time to carve bows, I know when he shifted into full-time bow carving, it was the opposite of what a lot of people like you experience, where you're kind of building up a career into it. For him, it was like such a blessing to be able to shed all those other responsibilities and just be a family man and a bowyer. And so, yeah, there's sacrifices, of course, to that, but he's done incredible things, that's for sure. And he gets to now carve his sons out there carving with him sometimes, or at least he was when I was there carving.
Yeah.
So you'll get that in about 10 years, probably 10 or 15.
Yeah. I've got a boy due in March. So yeah, I'll have, hopefully my daughter is into it too, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. My son's 12. He's been helping me on and off ever really since I started. So probably for the last 8 years or so. He's still not interested in carving his own bow from start to finish, but he definitely likes to be out there and helping me with various things. And first time I backed a bow with rawhide, he was there with me and we made a big mess of it. But it's just fun to be able to do these things with our kids.
It's a lot of patience for, a young kid too, to make a bow, because I made bows all the time in my backyard, but they weren't proper self bows. Like, if you had told me at 12 years old, I got to cut a piece of wood, split it, let it dry for a year, and then spend, 4 or 5 hours chasing a ring, like, I'd be like, no, I'm just going to go bend this willow sapling over and tie a paracord on it, and then I'm shooting today.
Yeah, it's a commitment. And it's how long does it take you to make a bow? 30 hours?
Yeah, I kind of figure if someone wants everything done, like snakeskins, beaver tail, flip tips, tip overlays, I kind of figure maybe close to 40 hours.
Yeah.
But that's let's say not a perfect stave, that I might have to do some heat alignment, because that's one of the most time
Yeah.
draining things, is like, okay, heat it up, getting these clamps, get it to where I think I'm gonna have a good string alignment, let it sit and cool, which it takes a couple hours in Oklahoma if it's hot, even with my AC running. I don't want to string that bow while it's warm. And then you string it up and it's off like an eighth an inch. You're like, oh, now I spend another 30 minutes heating it up, so that over and over can take a lot of time. Like, I could get a bow shooting in a day pretty easily if it's a clean stave.
Yeah.
Get the ring chase in 30 minutes or an hour, and then it's pretty quick after that. But it's the finish work, especially if you're doing these big meaty risers with lines. You got to sand all that stuff down, and then on the shelf, it takes forever to get your file and saw marks out of cutting the shelf out. So it's hard to get that perfect. I started using a chisel, so I don't have saw marks on the strike plate side of the shelf, but that filing to get all those gouges and everything out with hand sanding and not using power tools and tearing it up, yeah, that takes a lot of time. The finish work is exhaustingly slow, it feels like.
It is. Oh, and it's also something too, the entire process, especially when you're doing self bows from unique staves, no matter how good you get at it, you still have to be extremely patient. And it's not like other crafts where you can kind of turn it almost into an assembly line and get more and more and more efficient with it. Really, with bow building, like, getting faster almost means you're going to make more mistakes. And there's so much of just slowing down and waiting. And I was just talking with, I was just writing the chapter for Ryan Gauthier with Stormcrow Archery here in British Columbia. And he takes these beautiful photo collages of his entire tiller process from kind of like 50% tillered up to like 95% tillered. And he takes photos every step, and then he puts them into a collage. And then he says he likes to step away from it for like 2 days and just look at the photos from time to time and let his eyes readjust. And he said typically after like 2 days, he'll go back to look at that collage and he'll start to see things that he didn't see before. So it's just like this extreme patience and allowing the process to unfold to create these beautiful, effective works of art that are also weapons. But yeah, rushing it is, I think it's kind of the it's a hard lesson for for a lot of bowyers to learn.
And I think most people, they learn that when they miss weight on a bow.
Yeah.
They go too fast in the tiller, but that's definitely the biggest problem that I see. Like, all these new bowyers at Ojam, like, they're just rushing so fast. And like, the older I get, the more staves I harvest and split, and see how much time goes into, getting a good stave, and how few trees there are out there that are producing these good staves. You're like, I don't want to blow through and just build 100, cruddy bows just so I can say I built 100 bows. Like, you got to make this stuff count. Like, it's not going to be around forever. I mean, the Europeans know the U problem all too well. I mean, they're flying it in from BC, and now, my contacts up there saying it's getting, harder.
I've talked about the deforestation before on here. It's insane, the clear cutting that's happening all throughout BC, and the yew trees are destroyed in the clear cut. They're not used as timber wood. They're just seen as nuisances that are in the way of getting to the fir and the cedar.
Yeah,
and the spruce and the hemlock and the other timber woods.
Yeah,
so yeah, Jamie McDonald, when I was there in August, He's got tons of logging roads, like dozens and dozens and dozens of kilometers of logging roads behind his place. And I always just thought a logging road was like a little primitive dirt road. No, these things are like, they're dirt, but they're like highway size. It's insane. And so he was going to take me to see one of his favorite U spots. And we pulled up and he's like, oh no. And sure enough, they had just taken it all down. Like the whole mountainside where his favorite yew trees were was in logs on the side of the road. And the yew trees were just destroyed. And so, yeah, I don't know how much longer things like yew can last. And of course, it happened to lemonwood in Central America. And so a lot of people who used to work with lemonwood aren't able to get that anymore. And it's a sad thing.
Yeah, and yew is not a quick recovering tree.
No, and that's when you're in the forest where there's the fir and the cedar and the yew, like Jamie was telling me, they're all about the same age. And the yew trees were
Tiny.
a tenth of the size, maybe even less than that. Yeah, the yew trees are like 10 inches in diameter. The fir trees are like 3-4 feet in diameter. Cedar is potentially even more. So yeah, they do not grow fast.
And then when you do find yew, only 1 in 100 maybe are good for a bow.
Of course.
Osage is the same way. It wants to grow like a bush. It doesn't want to grow straight. You have to find it in a creek bottom. It has to be second growth. All the primary growth, if it was growing without a canopy around it, it just grows out. I mean, so it's the two best bow woods on earth don't like growing straight. I wish it were like hickory. All our hickory just grows straight as a pipe.
You don't like working with hickory?
It's so humid here that the hickory and pecan bows I've made one out of black locust. I've tried to mess with other woods, but I'm kind of just dissatisfied every time I do. They take way more set. The whitewoods take so much more set in Oklahoma than Osage. So
what other woods have you tried working with outside of yew and Osage? And
so pecan, black locust, we have it hackberry, and then I've done a couple. No, I've done one bamboo back bow.
Yeah, what'd you think about working with hackberry?
I probably didn't know enough. I just treat it like any other whitewood. I didn't follow a ring or anything, and I thought it was pretty similar to hickory.
Okay.
But I was pretty new at the time. Oh, and then I made one out of ash when I was pretty new.
Yeah.
So I probably didn't know, the distinct details and differences. Like, Corey's got a really good analysis of all the bow woods, and he does a lot with whitewoods.
Corey's hackberry bows are probably the best in the world.
Yeah, and I think that's his favorite if you ask him.
That's his thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's invasive in so many places, and so he's got a lot of connections where he can go in and cut it down, and that's part of the land management.
But we've got a ton of it here too.
Yeah. Do you collaborate with many other bowyers?
You
mentioned Waylon.
So I am really good friends with a lot of the guys in Oklahoma, and then I'm friends with pretty much that whole group. Now, like as far as collaborate, I see him at Ojam or I'll see him at the Classic, and that's pretty much it. I'd say.
Yeah.
Tony Tall. I'm good friends with Tony. Me and Tony have the Primitive Archery Podcast, which is just kind of when we get to it. We'll make an episode here or there with bowyers that we, would love to learn something from. But yeah, those are Waylon, Tony, and then we have some really good guys locally in Oklahoma that probably aren't super well known. Jodon Jones, he has a Pinnacle Bow Making group on Facebook. Jodon did it for a living for a while in the 90s. He's made thousands of bows, and his stuff is top notch. And then Mike Yancey in Arkansas.
Okay. Tell me more about the podcast.
It's literally just me and Tony calling old bowyers and then just picking their brain for an hour or two. It's a way that we can, selfishly, we start the podcast hey, you want to come on our podcast? And it's this guy we really look up to. And then we get 2 hours of information from him for ourselves. And then we'll record it and share that with everyone else. So, but it's fun. And like guys like um, Clay Hayes, Corey, um, see Mike Yancey. Mike's got a lot of really good hunting stories too, because a lot of these bowyers, and that's all they do. Like they are engulfed in their craft and they're just phenomenal bowyers. And then you have like these other guys that are like, they build a few bows here and there, but they're really just hunters and they just build a bow when they need to. So try and kind of like diversify and get like building self bows and then guys that are hardcore hunting with self bows. Cause I'd say me and Tony are half and half
Yeah. And as far as hunting goes, how often are you hunting all 3 months during hunting season?
every chance I get.
Yeah.
Like before I had a kid, let's see, I would take off 3 weeks, but this is only work 10 days a month. So I'd work like 2 days a month and I'd have 20 days in a row and I would pretty much hunt every single day. So maybe not morning and evening every day, but at least once a day, covering lots of ground, different places. And then um, had the baby. So, probably maybe half the days I'm off, I'll sneak out for the evening or morning.
So that's something you can do fairly locally.
Yeah, I live on 80 acres and I try and spread out my hunting so I'm not pressuring one place and scaring animals off by hunting the same place every day. I've got another place 30 minutes away. And then I just recently got a connection from a property. It's a small 10-acre tract, but it's in a really ideal location. And 2 nights ago, I just shot my biggest buck ever with a self bow on that
Wow.
property. And I just got permission on it 2 weeks back. So
Cool. And then what do you do with the kills?
if it's like these are deer, so the deer typically I'll process them myself. So I'll do everything in house. If it's a work night, I got to be up at 5 a.m. to get to work. Like this one was, I take it to a processor. I hate doing that, but I'm not gonna call in sick to work the next day. Um, and then if it's a bear, I don't know of anyone that will take a bear for processing. I mean, it's more like pork. They can have trichinosis, so you couldn't process those with the same equipment you're doing with deer without having to clean everything. So always do those myself. The one I shot this year was on public ground, so you're not baiting or anything. You're literally just hunting national forests in the mountains, looking for bear sign, covering a lot of ground until you find one. So I shot that bear, and I think it was 80, 80 something degrees, and I shot it at noon. And so I quartered that one up, spent the next 8 hours making trips up and down the mountain, getting it all packed out. And I'll take that. I have the whole hide made it.
Hey, Caleb, can you hear me? It says you have an incoming call, so I lost audio with you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah. If you can back up, you are packing out the quarters.
Yeah, so I shoot that bear. I've got game bags. I process that into 4 quarters. I basically skin it while it's laying on its back and then pull that hide off of it. And so it's basically laying on its own hide as a tarp that keeps the meat clean, a place to work on. I get those bones exposed at the joints. That way that heat starts coming out. The meat will start to go bad pretty quick because they have a higher bacteria count than something like deer. So you got to get it cut up, quartered out quick, and then get air to circulate around the meat and cool it down. So you put those in game bags that can ventilate real well, hike that down off the mountain, bring that home, and then I process it all at home. I grind some of it, I cut some into steak, some roast, and then save all that bear fat, rendered that bear fat down into a grease, and then I use that to seal my bows. I use that on my personal bows. I don't have enough to seal all my customer bows with that, but it works really good for heating up the wood too. I'll put that on there to keep it from scorching. Pretty much everything's going to get used except the bones and guts.
Mm-hmm. And then what do you do with the skin?
I just turn
With
that
the
into
hide?
a rug. I have
Yeah.
a couple pieces. I did a shoulder mount one. I've got a couple pretty good size pieces, and I probably need one more bear, and then I'll make a quiver and a vest out of those cutoffs.
That's so cool. You must have a ton of food then.
We were pretty stacked. That last year I shot, I'm giving half the meat to the landowner that let me hunt. And it worked out pretty good because I don't think I could fit the whole thing in my downstairs freezer. It's starting
Yeah.
to get full, but we eat a lot of it. We're at home all the time now. My wife works from home and we're about to have 2 kids. So it's kind of nice just to have meat in the garage that we can go out and start thawing whenever we need it.
Yeah, it's so good. Do you have any hunting trips planned?
This year, I'm pretty much done. I did the bear hunting thing. That's 5 hours away in the southeastern part of Oklahoma. Then my older brother and I went to New Mexico for mule deer. Saw a whole bunch of people and antelope and what is the other? I can't remember if it's kudu or it's some African game animal that they introduced in the deserts of New Mexico. And for whatever
Really?
reason, yeah. So they did it. I think it was in the 1960s just to have another game animal to hunt, and they thrived there. It's they originally transplanted them in the White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico, southern New Mexico, and yeah, they're for whatever reason it's oryx. That's what they are. They're oryx.
Okay.
These huge black and white African plains animal with these huge spikes. And we saw big old herds of those, but the mule deer population is really bad. So we didn't.
Wow. Yeah, I was just in
landscape
South
any of those.
Africa a couple months ago looking at the oryx in the wild, but how's that working out? I mean, typically those types of transplants don't go so well for
For
the
whatever
environment.
reason, I don't know if it's similar, landscape. They're doing really well, and then
But what
in
about the other critters and plants and whatnot that they might be eating or displacing?
mule deer were already in decline, and mule deer it's a problem across all the states. Mule deer aren't doing well. They don't do well at all with habitat change and people infringing on their habitats. Whereas whitetail thrive. Whitetail can live in your backyard. Like we're out in the country, but we're also you know 15 minutes from the city, and you see deer all throughout, and so they can really adapt well. For whatever reason, mule deer can't. So I think they were already having decreasing numbers of mule deer, and you have this big open landscape with people that want to hunt. And they don't have very many animals to hunt, and so that was kind of their goal was to bring in more game animals to hunt. And in the southwestern Texas, nilgai or nilgai, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's another African animal with little bitty horns. They're all throughout that part of Texas, and supposedly
Oh,
they're doing really well too.
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
Axis deer popping up all over southern Oklahoma and Texas. They originally escaped from high fence hunting operations, and yeah, they're doing well too.
Where are they from originally?
I think they're from. Well, I thought they were from Africa. Axis.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
have no clue.
Crazy. Yeah, I didn't know you could hunt oryx in the wild in the US.
Yeah, I think that is a draw hunt through the government. I don't think you can just go hunt public land oryx, but yeah, they're out there. We saw a ton of them.
Yeah. Cool. Well, dude, thank you for taking the time to do this. Can
No problem.
you let the listeners know where they can find out more about you, like your podcast and your various sites?
Yeah, so I'm most active on my personal Facebook and Instagram, which is just Caleb Fleece. It's spelled Caleb, and then last name Flies, like flies. And then I do have the Ravenclaw Archery Facebook and Instagram. And then Tony and I will probably put out a few more podcasts this off season, and that's just the Primitive Archery Podcast. I know it's on Spotify and Apple, and I think whoever our host is posts it some other places as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time today and educating everyone. It's been really nice to get to know you.
Yeah, nice to know you too. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Project Quiver on Salish Wolf. Follow our journey on Instagram at Project Quiver as we seek out the world's most extraordinary traditional bowyers, and join our newsletter at projectquiver.com. Our coffee table book, Quiver, The Art of Life Through Bowcraft arrives in 2026. We are honored to share with you the beauty, history, and magic of traditional archery.